we're on.
Yeah. Hi guys. Thanks for coming. We're just gonna give it a minute for people to sign in, and then we'll start. Thanks for joining us.
Danielle, it's
You
okay.
guys don't. Yeah, you can be there.
Alright.
You guys don't mind if I record, yeah?
No, I don't mind.
Okay. I'll
No,
probably
we
end up
don't.
putting it on Facebook afterwards, if that's okay.
Do we have to push anything? No?
Nope, you should be good.
Oh. Oh.
Alrighty, I'm gonna start. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you, Jeanette and Tracy, for being here. My name is Danielle Angelari. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the executive director of NAMI Northern Illinois. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the organization, we are a part of the nation's largest grassroots organization dedicated to improving lives of individuals touched by mental illness. And our local affiliate does that throughout Winnebago and Boone counties through support, education, and advocacy initiatives that are aimed at improving response to mental illness for all. I do have some announcements before we begin. So, happy Mental Health Month to everyone. We know that millions of Americans experience mental illness each year, but we all have mental health. This year, throughout the month of May, we have already begun promoting what it means to be kind to your mind. We will be bringing to you various tools to improve your coping skills, resilience, and mental well-being, if you experience mental illness or not. We at NAMI Northern Illinois would like to invite you to participate in our Mental Health Month Challenge that you can find on our website, Facebook, and Instagram accounts. Each day there will be a new challenge. I thought today's was kind of fitting for tonight's program. The challenge was to pledge to stop using stigmatizing language. So that is my task from me to you now. And I just want everyone to remember that when the month comes to a close, we do encourage your reflection on the time you spent doing new things that promote your wellness. Our goal is that you carry what you learn forward with you as the year moves on. Sometimes we do forget the value of small steps in the right direction. If you'd also like me to send that list of challenges to you via email, I'd be happy to do so. If you'd like to share your email in the chat box. Throughout the month of May, we do have a few more educational events for you as well. Next Tuesday at 5:30 on Zoom will be part 2 of our trauma series. May 17th at 5:30 will be our virtual mental health fair. And then May 18th will be an update from the Winnebago County Community Mental Health Board and all the work that they've been doing the past several months. You can find those details on our website as well, and you can register there too for those webinars. Our annual event is finally here next month. We're hosting our Mulligans for Mental Illness Golf Play Day on June 7th at Forest Hills Country Club, and we hope to see you there, whether that's on the green or at our after hours event. I'm sure there's something there for everyone, so we'd be happy to have you. And then I do want to mention and ask you guys to keep your eyes open for our sand volleyball tournament, as well as our retail therapy event in September. If you guys know of any volleyball players or artists and crafters, please send them our way. But on to the main event, I'd like to introduce you to my friends Jeanette and Tracy. But before I do, let me tell you a little bit about our In Our Own Voice program, besides the fact that it's my favorite. This presentation provides a very personal perspective of mental illness, as these two leaders will talk openly about what it's like. The presentation also offers a chance for you all to ask questions, allowing for a deeper understanding of mental health conditions to dispel stereotypes and misconceptions. If and when you do have questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box and I will facilitate them with Tracy and Jeanette. And then at the end of the program, if you could please stick around for a couple of minutes just to fill out a poll for us. And thank you again, all of you, for being here. So, Miss Tracy, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What are your hobbies?
Hi, I'm Tracy. Bipolar befriends me. Anxiety annoys me. Borderline personality traits try to describe me. Again, hi, I'm Tracy. I'm Tracy, and I really love the arts. I love to use my creativity to help me along on my journey daily, living my recovery. I'm in that very active in with my NAMI volunteer, um, Stars of Light theater troupe. I write poetry. I love animals. I love the garden. But most of all, I love giving back by sharing part of my journey with others to help them along on their journey. And I will always continue to keep doing that to make it better for others. I think one of my greatest strengths is my humor, although some people at times may not feel that way. I like to surf the waves, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Thank you. How
Mhm.
about you, Jeanette? It's your turn. Tell us about
Hi.
you.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Towns. I'm a mother of two wonderful daughters and a grandmother of six, three boys and three girls. One of my hobbies or passions is cooking for friends and loved ones. Family is very important to me. Even though I'm over half a century old, I'm still in daily contact with both of my daughters. Another passion of mine is sharing my personal experience of living with a diagnosed mental illness. For many years, I hid my condition as best I could. Then I was encouraged at some point to share and to help educate and encourage others on their journey.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys a lot, as always. I do want to mention I'm going to have a couple of videos throughout here just to guide us along the way. So bear with me as I share my screen.
Hi, I'm Henry.
Hi, Andrea.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Alika, how are you?
I'm good.
Hey Alex, I'm Doug. Nice to meet you.
I'm a graphic designer and I work for a nonprofit. I have a little baby boy who's almost a year old.
I have two children and they're not babies. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son.
I have a brother and a sister that I'm very close with, and my mother and father are still together. They've been together for 30 plus years.
I enjoy the beach and spending time with my 9-month-old puppy, Snoopy, who I love with all my heart.
I consider myself a community activist. I work with people with addiction issues, people that are homeless.
What I really like to do is draw comic books. I've been doing it since I was in middle school. My diagnosis is schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type.
Borderline personality disorder.
Bipolar disorder.
My diagnosis is major depressive disorder. I think I tell my story so I don't forget where I've been.
I want to be able to dispel those myths that's out there about mental health conditions.
Yeah. I'm an actual person and I have a voice and I have a story to share. I started having symptoms of depression and who am I existential questions since I was 15. And I used to say to myself, I'm having my midlife crisis at 15 years old.
There was about a 3-year period in my life where everything I did and said was sort of a product of the world of delusions that I was living in.
I would call out of work for days on end.
I didn't eat. I slept all the time.
For quite some time, I didn't even recognize my symptoms because hypomania can look organized to me. So I can get a lot done in a very little bit of time. It didn't become a problem until they noticed that I wasn't sleeping for days on end.
I hallucinated every single day, and then the anxiety sort of builds and builds and builds until it becomes kind of like a paranoia where, everything is sort of out to get you.
My way of dealing with it primarily was with drugs, and I know now that that's suicide on the installment plan.
I started self-harming more. My friends, when I was a junior, saw the scars, and it was horrible. They judged me. They said that I was doing it for attention.
Some people said bipolar disorder, some people said ADHD, some people said PTSD, and none of them seemed to make sense for me.
It was a diagnosis that evolved over time, several different hospitalizations, several different diagnoses until one eventually stuck.
I was a special education teacher, so there were kids in my class that had ADHD or had bipolar disorder, and just listening to those teachers and how they talked about those kids, it didn't make me want to come out and share what I had just learned about myself.
I felt that I wouldn't be accepted and that all my work would be dismissed as, not credible because I had a mental illness.
After I lost my job, I became homeless. I committed minor crimes to feed my drug habit, lived on the streets, and finally, eventually was arrested and sent to state prison. That's the big turning point for me.
So yeah, guys, I guess knowing your stories a little bit more myself, I think that maybe you both can relate to some of those pieces, right? So let's get into the weeds a little bit here. Tracy, we'll start with you again. When did everything begin for you in regards to your mental health journey? Can you tell us about the beginning of your story? What happened?
I believe I believe I had my first breakdown around 14 or 15 years old. Many things were happening in my personal life. I withdrew from the people I loved in my life in total. I was not taking care of myself physically or emotionally or mentally. I was in extreme emotional pain and no longer had the will to live. After that, um, my mom and dad had me admitted to a hospital where I stayed for what seemed like forever. And at the end of that stay, they gave me the diagnosis of bipolar disorder 2 with borderline tendencies and PTSD. The doctor decided it was no longer a good idea to live with my mother, which led to me living with my father and his new girlfriend. My parents had separated during my hospital stay. Now, after receiving this diagnosis, I thought about it as an addition to the already many things that had happened to me. I had a difficult time understanding, but I felt better. But now I had new medications to take and a new journey to begin. So believe me when I say bipolar has always tried to befriend me. You ever lost your direction in the rain on a road trip to a place you've never been, that you never wanted to go in the first place? You could start to understand what it's like to live with bipolar.
Thank you. So how about you, Jeanette? You want to tell us the beginning of your story, your journey to receiving the proper care?
Mental illness affects everyone. Yes, even you. Not everyone is diagnosed with a mental health disorder, but chances are you know someone who is. It could be your child, your spouse, your coworker, or another loved one. My childhood was marred by depression, but I didn't have a name for it back then. These bouts intensified as the years went by. Thoughts of hopelessness and worthlessness filled my mind. In 1995, I suffered my very first manic episode. After a hospital stay, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. There was no discharge plan, and I was left to fend for myself. To me, this is a cruel, heinous, and insidious disease. I've survived its torments. I was in denial for many years after my initial diagnosis. I continued to go unmedicated and received no mental health care. The bouts of mania intensified. I exhibited risky behaviors such as hypersexuality. I had unprotected relations with multiple partners. I threw away an 18-year marriage to a minister. I had strained relationships with my entire family. After extreme manic episodes, I would sink into increasingly deeper and deeper depression. When someone close to you suffers, it will affect you also to some extent. Mental illness puts stress on the entire family. The ill individual may experience massive mood swings, have an inability to sleep, might hear audible, destructive voices, or have depressive bouts. Suicidal thoughts may be prevalent. At times, mental illness may mimic drug abuse, and sometimes an individual may actually be self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, compounding the issue. About 7 years after my initial diagnosis, I was hospitalized again and began taking medication. A case was opened up for me at the local mental health center. When I thought no one was looking, I stopped taking my meds and began getting in trouble with the law. I was even homeless by choice a few times.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, I know. So, like, how long would you say from initial experience of symptoms to getting help, both of you? How many years do you think that took? Looking back.
For me, it was 7 to 10 years. I'm not exactly clear on how many, but between 7 and 10 years before I got help.
How about you, Tracy?
I'd have to say almost 20 years because, you know, back in the day, they didn't quite have what we know today. And a lot of things have gotten better. But it's taken a long time, most of my lifetime, you know?
No, and I don't think that's uncommon that it takes that long between when symptoms first show up to actually getting help, which we're hoping to close that gap, right? By sharing these stories too.
Yes.
So next video for you.
After I got out, 90 days later, I was right back in prison. I knew that what I had been doing wasn't working anymore, and that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in prison.
I remember when I was in the hospital the last time, and my therapist, she came to me, we were talking, and she said to me, I really need you to commit to life, because if not, we can't work together. What I remember is that I just opened myself to the risk of living.
When I ultimately became aware of the fact that I did have, a mental health condition, I always call it the best day of my life because it was just infinitely better than what reality I was living in.
I would have saved myself a lot of headaches if I would have accepted it a lot earlier in my life, but you can't change the past. You just turn the page and just start a new chapter in life.
Once I realized, I had a mental health condition, the very first thought on my mind was, okay, how am I gonna get on top of this?
I think the one thing that I've learned is that recovery is an ongoing process.
I think finding the right doctor, the right team to help me was really critical in my recovery.
It took many years to find the right therapist, and I think what made them the right therapist is that they really seemed to genuinely care to listen to what I had to say.
I find it's always really necessary to sort of advocate for myself, within the mental health system, just because I know if I don't do it, nobody's gonna do it.
I started on medication when I was in 9th grade, and my dad was very against it. My mom is a little more open, and she wanted me to get on medication. She knew that there was something that just chemically wasn't right with me.
My family, they've been a tremendous help, in my recovery. I think the number one thing they did for me that I can't thank them enough for was they never gave up.
My family didn't have to be there for me. But all of them, my brother, sister, my mom, and dad, they all stuck by me. I'm really lucky to have their support in this.
It's important for me to keep up the routines that I do, even when I'm doing really, really well. That just kind of reinforces my path to wellness.
Positive self-talk, that's something I practice often for my recovery. If I ever feel myself getting stressed, anxious about something, I'll say, I got this, I got this.
I also do go to the gym, and I do hot yoga. I love hot yoga. I really do. It's very therapeutic.
You don't just start taking a magic pill and get better, or find the right therapist and get better. You have to work at it every day.
You guys got it right the first time, right? You were hooked up with the right people right away?
Absolutely not.
No. Mm-mm.
All right,
No.
Tracy, you wanna start with your what helps? How did meeting up with all the correct people go? What helps you on your journey?
Well, I was hospitalized at least three other times during the next 30 years. I kept following the same patterns leading to my last break, where I had to call the police on myself. So being in the darkest place I've ever really been taught me a lesson. I had to start taking my recovery very seriously. So acceptance of my illness and what I needed to do and to do to stay well is my way out of hell. I had to learn new coping skills, accountability, and finally take a look at my bigger picture. Different things work for different people, and I had to find what works for me. And what works for me, you ask? Talk therapy, support groups, supported living, being involved in my community, Stars of Light, NAMI volunteer work, church, my faith, and my art. Being able to share this with you right now not only helps you, but it helps me too. I found stepping stones where I had the opportunity to interview for a spot in their care. I moved from a nursing home where I thought I would be the rest of my life. The day after I turned 50, I became a part of this family. It is a great place for me. I have a lot of different types of support in my life because of my treatment and facility, and knowing I have all my support and friends and new family on my side makes me feel extremely grateful and blessed. You have to work at recovery. You have to surf the waves. I choose to live my recovery journey every day, and that's why my treatment works. Managing medications, life skills, my creativity, humor, diet, exercise, leisure time, support, spirituality, and so on are only some of my coping skills. Finding balance is important. Following my wellness plan is what I use to maintain my stability, safety, and security. For me, being able to tell my story and live my recovery journey every day is giving happiness back to others with my creativity, and whether it's acting or poetry, volunteering, sharing my time with others, being able to do this is what I look forward to in my future. Happiness is like surfing the waves, being at the beach or in the mountains, being at peace with yourself, having self acceptance, faith, hope, love, and knowing you're not alone. Being in this present moment is a gift. I'm a millionaire, but not that kind of a millionaire.
Thank you, Tracy. How about you, Jeanette? What finally helped you into your recovery, and what continues to help you?
I'm so passionate about this issue because it happened to me. Nobody knew what to do. I stumbled around for almost 10 years before being properly treated, in and out of jail, in and out of various hospitals, and in and out of my right mind. Once I was declared unfit to stand trial. I was ordered by the court to be placed in the Elgin Mental Health Center. I was there for a 4-month stay. The year was 2004. I was finally placed on meds that worked for me. I was finally stabilized after a long time. While in Elgin's forensic unit, I saw mentally ill people who appeared to be normal. I saw a staff who truly cared. I made a decision to work in the mental health field because of the outstanding treatment at this facility. Receiving consistent services was life-altering, life-changing. My shattered life was restored. I ended up working full-time in the mental health field, being entrusted to care for chronically ill patients, assisting them with their activities of daily living. How did I go from being a client to a caregiver? Because I was ready to help others the same way I was helped. Also, there was money in the state's budget for more care at that particular time. Many inpatient and crisis services have disappeared with nothing to replace them. Many people are falling through the cracks, confused, feeling abandoned, mostly left to the Department of Corrections to care for them. And the DLC was not designed for this. So basically, to help myself, I went from being a client to a caregiver to turn around and help others that went through what I went through.
Thank you. And I'm excited to talk about this next section with you guys. The what's next section, going to show one more video quick, and then it's all you.
It seems like my journey has been a bit of a roller coaster ride where I've accepted and I've recovered and then I relapsed and I've accepted and recovered and relapsed. And now I find myself in probably the best place I've been in a really long time.
You know, success with a mental health condition can really be just about anything you make of it.
This past year was like my first consistent year in recovery without any relapses. And so that was something definitely to celebrate. And we celebrated that. So just to see things like that is encouraging to me, and it gives me the fortitude to continue on and say that I know that I can do it.
When I started this process, I didn't have a lot to be proud of. And now, man, there's so much to be proud of. Just living my life in a healthy way, not having my power turned off, paying my rent and paying all my bills on time.
I own my own home. I have a great job.
After everything I went through, I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to go ahead and actually finish school.
My relationships have improved since I've been in recovery, both with my family, with my friends, with my employers, definitely with myself. I don't have that whole shame thing going on anymore.
One hope is that I can continue on this path of wellness and recovery, of being happy within my own skin.
I'd like to just, slowly but surely sort of make my way back to leading, a much more healthy lifestyle.
You can be happy and healthy whether you have a mental health condition or not.
I think success is being able to communicate your truth to another person. And once I started talking about it, I didn't feel as alone anymore, and I felt strength through other people.
I know that when I was in high school, I wish I had someone tell me that things get better. So I want to be that light for someone else. I want to help others and give them hope and let them know that it's going to be okay.
One thing that I've learned about mental illness is that it's one of the most common diseases in America. It's more common than heart disease, more common than diabetes, and more common than cancer. But most people don't recognize that. Just having that knowledge and being able to share that with others might be enough to get them involved in their own treatment, their own help. If I can impact one person's life each time I tell my story, that will be a great thing.
What brave people, all of you. Just can't thank you guys enough for always sharing your story. So what's next? What are you guys proud of? Tracy, we'll start with you again. What's your goals for the future, your dreams? You've come
My
so
goal for
far.
my goal for the future and my dream is just to live my best life every day, and give back to my community, use my creativity and my God-given talents to help others. Um, and like I said, if I could touch one person's life and save one person's life by sharing my story, then I think I'm happy. I think that it's worth it.
I love that. How about you, Jeanette?
Well, since exiting the workforce, I began to try to hide my story. I can no longer do that in good conscience. I want to share my experiences and let everyone know that help, support, and recovery do exist. So in the last few years, the last couple of years, since I joined NAMI, I became a mental health advocate, a mental health activist, a public speaker, and I recently wrote my first book. So my future will consist of doing more public speaking and traveling the country, explaining to people what mental illness is and what recovery can look like.
You both do it so well. It's special to me, and it's special to all of us here. And I want to say thank you again. And if anyone has questions for these lovely women, please feel free to type them in the chat box or the question and answer box, and I'd be happy to read them to them. And I'll give you a minute to do that. Do you have any questions for each other? I know you've shared together before.
I miss you, my Jeanette.
I miss you too. And it was good seeing you about a month ago.
And we'll see each other, I bet, soon again.
Absolutely.
Let's see. There's a question. How does, I imagine, having a mental illness impact your job or how employers see you? If anyone wants to take a stab at that.
Well, for me, the place where I ended up working after my diagnosis was the same place that used to treat me. So they had my chart, they knew my story, and they believed in me anyway. So it didn't affect me because they already knew me.
Right.
If I were to go and just get a job someplace else at this point, I would want to hide it again because I know there's so much stigma in the community and there's so much shame. People with mental illnesses are not treated equally. And they feel like they have to hide things. I'm hoping that's going to change in the near future, though.
And I would say, in that respect, if you're discriminated at a job for living with a mental illness, that's something another organization locally could take up for you, because that's not the correct way to deal with it. So if you need information on that, please let me know. And another job related question for you, Jeanette. How were you able to get a job with a criminal background? Because maybe their daughter can't find a job.
Well, what happened to me is when I was declared unfit to stand trial and I was sent to Eldrin Mental Health Center, I think I had been in and out of jail like 5 times at that point. They got me on the right medication. They treated my illness. And then all of my charges were dropped because I went through, like, I guess, a portion of the mental health court. So I have no record anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions for Tracy or Jeanette? Let's see. My son's girlfriend has bipolar and is on medication. She is a big advocate for decreasing the stigma around her disease. What are ways that she can be supported, or that, okay. Son's girlfriend, so boyfriend's mom can support her son's girlfriend by being more understanding. Just how can she support both her son and his girlfriend, who potentially both have mental health conditions?
Well, one way that I support people is I have a private mental health page on Facebook called Eliminating Mental Health Stigma. And on that page, I educate people and I also give them a safe place to vent. So if they would like to join my page, I would be more than glad to have them. I'm also available to deal with people and talk to people on a one-on-one basis. So if they can get in contact with me through Danielle, I would be glad to help with my personal experiences and my knowledge.
Do you have anything to add, Tracy?
Sure do. I also like to advocate. I would, there are a lot of great people at NAMI, and there are a lot of great groups, and support groups for family members. You could take a family to family, and they would give you enough support and tools to help support your loved ones. So that would be one of my things to encourage them to do.
Thank you for the plug, Tracy. Yeah, we do have family education as well as family support for people in those situations, and even support maybe for your son and his girlfriend. Bunch of different groups, whether they're teenagers or young adults or adults. I'm sure we could find something for them if you're interested in reaching out. And as for the girlfriend who would like to be an advocate, maybe she's interested in sharing her story one day or building up to it. For you, Tracy, how can workers help in your recovery? Like, for example, at Stepping Stones.
How can workers help? I'm going to be very, very honest. My caseworker, I love her. She keeps it real. And you want someone that isn't going to just tell you what you want to hear. You want it to keep it real. It's not going to be always easy. I think because there are people here and they are trained and they do their job efficiently and they care. The way that you would have to do that is whatever kind of different skills and that you can use and they can use together and work at it together.
Truth. Do you have anything to add to that, Jeanette? How people that work in the mental health field can be more helpful?
I think the biggest thing would be to be a good listener. The majority of people who work in the mental health field do not have experience with living with a mental illness. So I would say listening is the greatest thing that you can do. And also, like Tracy said, just be honest with the person. Sugarcoating things is not going to help, but do it in a loving manner. Because you have to remember the person with mental illness has feelings too.
Definitely. Good question so far. Thank you all. Any more for us? I'm going to throw up this poll really quick for you guys. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to type them in. But I would love to have your answers on this. Do you two have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share? Words of wisdom?
I do. I just want to encourage everybody, if you feel like you're experiencing a mental health crisis, please talk to a professional. Please seek help. Help is available and you don't have to go through this alone. So go seek help. Be honest with the person that you're talking to and you will get the help that you need. And if you happen to go to someone who really doesn't understand, don't stop with that one person. Keep going until you get the help that you need for your particular life.
Yes. And please, please don't ever be afraid. You know, it's not easy. I know it's not easy. But like Miss Jeanette said, if you don't get help from someone, there's someone else. I mean, even I had to call the police and help for myself. You gotta do what you gotta do to keep yourself, to help for yourself. And there are people available and ready.
And in closing, I just want to say, don't suffer in silence. You don't have to.
No.
Don't let stigma and shame stop you from getting help.
Preach.
Right.
No, and I do want to mention, again, thank you for bringing up the support groups, Tracy. We do have many support groups available for people, and my office acts as a resource line as well. If anyone needs to talk, maybe receive some guidance too. And I do appreciate you both once again and always. And thank you all for coming. I don't see any more questions, so that will be.
Thank you, ladies. Great
Yes.
job.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.